Quiz tomorrow. No, it's totally going to end well. So, let's go through the homework. Let's make sure we're good with these. What'd you guys put for 3? Can you factor 3?
No.
Why not?
Because you said so.
But why? All right, come on. Book's open, page 569. What's wrong with it? There's an odd power. There's that x to the third, so nope, that one's not going to work for us for that. That's not a difference, 2 squares. How about 6? Can you factor that one?
No.
Why not? Same reason, because there's a a to the third. If it was a squared, that would be a perfect square trinomial. You could do that one. How about 9? What's that factor into? What can you do with number 9? Where it says 8pq squared plus 8pq plus 2p. What would you do with that first? What's always the first way you should try to factor every single problem, no matter what? GCF. Is there a GCF? Can you pull something out of there? Can divide everything by 2. Is that all you can divide by? 2p? So pull that out, and you go. All you have left is 4p squared, or 4q squared. And then you'd have 4q plus, what happens when you do 2p divided by 2p? You just get 1. Are you done now? What's the second thing you should always look for with factoring? Shortcuts. That's obviously not a difference 2 squares, but if it's 3 terms, is that a perfect square? Is 4 a perfect square? Is 1 a perfect square? The square root of that is 2q. The square root of 1 is 1. If you multiply those together and times it by 2, does that equal that? Yes. Which means that factors really easily. And what is that going to factor into? Square root of that is 2q. Square root of 1 is 1. My signs are the same, both positive, and I'm going to have 2 of those. You're done. How about 12? What's 12 say? What can you do with that one? 2x squared y minus 20xy plus 50y. What's step 1? GCF? What can you pull out of there? A 2 and a y. So divide by 2y and you get, well, that would just be x squared. That would be negative 10 on x and 25. Great. Is that a shortcut? Is that a perfect square? 1's a perfect square. 25, yes. 5 times 1 times 2, does that equal 10? Yes. So what's that going to factor into? Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 25 is 5. My signs have to be the same. They are both negative. So just throw the 2y out in front. You're done. I'm hoping these are easy. Because to me, those are 2 easy ways to factor. Pulling out a GCF should not be hard. Perfect square trinomials, that shortcut, that should not be hard. How about 15? When you see 4 terms, what should you be thinking every single time? You should be thinking grouping. Now, the first thing I would look for, actually I wrote that down wrong. That should be a 3 and that should be a 5. Squared 3. I lied to you. Just because you see 4 terms, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be thinking grouping right away. No matter what, what's the first thing you should look for every time? GCF. Is there something all 4 of those terms have in common? No. So now you think, all right, 4 terms. Now I'm thinking grouping. Can I pull something out of these first 2? 3p's, so p to the third. And if I do that, I end up with p squared, and I pull out 3p's, and I get 3. Now, there's nothing I can pull out of p squared plus 3, but what do you notice about this? Don't you have p squared plus 3 and p squared plus 3? If I put this in parentheses and basically factor out a 1, does that change anything? So, great. What can I pull out now? P squared plus 3. And what would I have left? P to the third plus 1. And that's your answer. And remember, guys, come test day, come quiz day tomorrow, how can you check your answer to make sure it works? Foil. Just actually multiply that back together and see what happens, and it should work out. What did you guys put for 18? What did you guys put for 18? Where it says 9p squared minus q squared plus 3p. You put what? Unfactorable? Why? Do they have anything in common? Huh? But does all three of these terms have something in common, like a GCF? Nope. You can only divide by 1, so it can't do anything there. It's not going to be grouping because it's only 3 terms. It's not a shortcut because that is a perfect square, but that one's not, right? So that's not going to work.
How is Q a
1. If the 3p wasn't there, if this was not there, could I factor just that? Yeah, that would factor. That'd be 3p plus q, 3p minus q, right? I could factor just those two, but not with that 3p there. With that 3p there, there's really nothing else you can do there. You can try, yeah, this one basically is just unfactorable. There's nothing you can do. How about 21? Is that one done? 3n squared minus, or 3n squared times n squared minus 25. Is that one done? Or can you go farther? Can you factor n squared minus 25? What does that factor into? N minus 5, n plus 5. That's the difference, 2 squares. 3n squared. That's your answer. Huh? Good. How about 24? Can you do anything there? Nope, that one's done. How are we doing with these? Easy? Guys, if you can do this assignment right here, the quiz tomorrow to me should be easy. This assignment. And the reason I say that is the section before this, that was just the shortcuts. That was, is this is that a perfect square trinomial? Yes or no? Why? How do you know? 49 and 25 are perfect squares. Now, if those are perfect squares, does that automatically mean it's a perfect square trinomial? No. You got to take the square root of that, which would be 7x. Take the square root of that, which is 5y. Multiply those together and multiply it by 2. Does this equal that? Yes. If that's the case, then yes, that will factor really easily into 7x, 5y. My signs are the same, both positive. You're done. Another type of question I could put on the quiz. I could give you this. And the question would be is, what does b have to be in order for that to be a perfect square trinomial? I want this to be a perfect square. I want it to be a perfect square trinomial. That's a perfect square. That's a perfect square. What does b have to be here in order for this to be a perfect square trinomial? How would I figure that out? What's the square root of that? It'd have to be 3x times 4 times 2. What's 3 times 4? It has to be 24. B would have to be a 24. Yeah. I think that's an easy question. I think it is easy.
I'm just going to forget the freaking theorem.
You're going to forget to multiply by 2 and just put 12?
Yes.
Don't do that. That'd be wrong. Because I guarantee you, if it's multiple choice, I guarantee you 24 would be there as an answer. 12 would also be there as an answer.
3, 4.
Yeah, 3 would probably be there. 4 would probably be there. Maybe 48 might be there. Throw you off. Maybe I might even figure out what 9 times 16 is, which is a big number. Put that in there. Times 2. Put that in there, big number. Yeah. Are we good with those? So, now, guys, I actually think this quiz here, oddly enough, is actually about the same amount of content, basically the same amount of content as the entire chapter, even though this quiz is technically only going to cover the last 2 sections. And the reason is, the quiz that we're taking tomorrow, yes, there's perfect square trinomials, and yes, there's a difference of 2 squares, so there should be some easier ones. But then we're also talking about like last night's homework. That was on last night's homework. That was a grouping question. That was on last night's homework, where you have to pull out the 2y and then factor it again. Those will definitely be on the quiz tomorrow. So, oddly enough, even though this quiz is only covering the last 2 sections, you kind of need to know how to do all of it in order to score well on this. Are there questions over last night's homework? That's the biggest one. If you can do last night's homework, the page, what page was that? That was 569. You actually should be in pretty good shape. Now, everybody take a look at page 573. 573. 573, please.
What did you say?
All right, 573. I don't know why this thing's not following me today. Notice, Tommy, there's only 2 sections on this quiz. Section 8.5, which is your shortcuts, which is difference of squares and perfect square trinomials. I think we've covered those pretty well. Like number 1 is, what's the indicator that this problem of x squared plus 8x plus 16, what's the indicator that this might be a perfect square trinomial? Is this a perfect square? Is 1 a perfect square? Is 16 a perfect square? Yes and yes. This sign has to be a plus. And then square root of this would be x. Square root of 16 is 4. You always times it by 2. Does this equal that? So what's that factor into? X and 4. My signs are the same. There's both positive. There's just 2 of those. You're done. There will be those. And don't be surprised if I give you the question like I just said of basically just give you these 2 numbers and ask you what that b would have to be. So know the shortcut. Then you got problems like number 8. A problem like number 8 should be about as easy as it gets. What do we call these? Difference of 2 squares. What's the answer? What's the square root of x squared? Just 1x. What's the square root of 121? What are your signs? 1 positive, 1 negative. You're done. X plus 11, x minus 11. What's the answer to number 9? Oh, what do you got to do with number 9 first? Where it says 4t squared minus 20. That's a perfect square. Is that a perfect square? No. Is there anything else I can do? Do they have a 4 in common? Yeah, pull out a 4. What would you have left? Now, is that a perfect square triangle, or is this a difference 2 squares? No, because that is a perfect square, but is 5 a perfect square? No. So this one you actually can't factor nicely. So this would be your final answer. Technically speaking, you could factor that slightly, but it would be a really nasty problem. And you would go square root of t squared is t. Square root of 5 is just, I don't know, square root of 5. It's like 2 point, I don't know, some ugly decimal. 1 positive, 1 negative. That's really, oops, I don't know why I put 2 there. That's really all you could do. This is not something that you will have to do this year, though. That's something that's more of an Algebra 2 thing. This would be your final answer. That is not a difference 2 squares. Okay? Are we good with those? Don't get confused on a question like number 10. Question like number 10, is this a difference of 2 squares? Yeah, 1's a perfect square. 9y to the 4th is a perfect square. What does this exponent have to be for this to work? Even. Has to be an even. What's the square root of 1? What's the square root of 9y to the 4th? 3y to the 2nd. What are your signs? Positive and negative. Done. And then you're going to have questions like last night, where it's going to be, is this already factored? Yes or no. It's already done. It's not. And then you're going to have some that you have to do multiple things, like pull out a GCF and then use a shortcut. Or pull out a common factor and then do an easy type problem. Are there questions for tomorrow's quiz? So, all we have left, quiz tomorrow. We're going to review the whole chapter on Friday. Then we have a long weekend. We're going to review the whole chapter on Monday again, on Tuesday, and then test on Wednesday. Then for the most part, for some of you, the marking period actually is over. I'm not going to put any more marking period grades in. But I'm actually going to give you one more big, giant homework assignment. It's the exam review. It's going to be a lot, well, it's going to be a lot of points. It's going to be a lot of questions. And what I'm going to do with the exam review assignment is it's going to be different for some of you. if you are taking my exam, that's part of your exam grade. You do it, your grade will go up on your exam. You don't do it, your grade will go down. Like it's part of the exam grade. If you are opting out of my exam and not actually taking the exam, then it's going to be a 50-point homework assignment, which would be just like a normal homework assignment, just a big one. The good news is you're going to have you're basically going to have a week to do it, because I'm going to give it to you on Thursday. Well, yeah. And then, no, I'm going to give it to you on Friday. Wait, when are we taking the test? Wednesday. So I'm going to give it to you on the Thursday. You'll have Thursday, Friday, all weekend, Monday, Tuesday, and then it's due the day of your exam, so your guys' exam for me would be on Wednesday. So I'll give it to you on Thursday. You'll have till the following Wednesday to get it done. So you'll have almost a week to get it done. If you were in my 6th hour, you'd have even longer, because their exam isn't till Friday. Fair enough? Okay.